Okay, so we shall start. I welcome you all to this online session of Python application programming. So in our previous class, we were discussing about the list, and I had given you a small assignment where you could read a file and go through each lines other than just printing the whole line. So you need to find some interesting lines. Say for example, if you are looking for some part of the line like a day of the week, as I said, okay, in the last class. So if I have a text file which comprises of the strings, something like this, okay, which includes the strings or lines. So this is just an example string which I've taken from one such text file, and if I want to locate this day of the week, so this was a simple assignment which was given for you people in the last class to work. I guess many of you might have implemented it. Just for the sake of revision, so I'm going to use these lines as an answer or a solution, just in order to make sure that you have written a proper program. I'm reading a text file here as fhand. I have opened the text file. Now I will parse inside the text file line by line for line in fhand. So this creates a loop, an iterative loop with an iterative variable line. And now line is equal to line dot r strip. It is going to remove, okay, it is going to remove the unwanted spaces, okay. And then if not, line dot start with from. See, I am just trying to verify whether the line, if it is not starting with from, if it doesn't begin with from, I would say simply continue with the next iteration, right? It will go to the next line. If this is false, okay, if this is false, that means it begins with from, so it will split. I have used this line dot split. Guys, what will happen if I use dot split operation? It will create what? The list of words, and words of twos. Here, if you could see this example, so if this is at the 0th index, so this is at the 0th index, from is at the 0th index, Stephen dot marker at uct.ac.za is at second index, and this Saturday, sorry, this is at first index, sorry, and my day of the week is at the second index, and this is third, and this is fourth, and this entire is fifth, and this would be sixth. So the words would be like from Stephen. This would be your second word in the list. This would be your third word. So I simply say print words in the square bracket 2. That means you're trying to access the element from the list which is at the index 2. Now if I run this program, okay, yeah, here I should say a comment because I've used it as a string just for sake of understanding. Okay, it is taking some time. Yeah, again error, no such file. Okay, sorry, so I did not place this file here. Can I just simply call a string here, str is equal to st is equal to, I'll just try to copy. Okay, let me do the copying of the file into the same folder, because I did not had mbox short text in the same folder. It was there in our previous folder. Just let me copy it, and I'll rerun the program. Yeah, I've copied the program, and I am going to paste it in module 3 folder. Okay, yeah, so it is done. Yeah, it's done now. If I run this, because I could not find this mbox short text in my my classwork module 3 current directory, so I'm getting an error, no such file or directory. So make sure, guys, whenever you're trying to read a text file or any other file, it should be present in the same folder where you're trying to write the program, or you should have the path. You should have the path attached to your text file or to your file which you're trying to read. So now if you run this program, so I don't have any line which starts with from. It is pretty surprising. Let me just check the text file. What do I have in that mbox short text? How many of you have written this program? Hello? Am I audible?
Yes, sir.
How many of you have written this program? None of you? So I don't have any text from colon. 1 second, guys. Here it is from colon. Okay, yeah. Now, can you see this? I have just, I was mentioning, I'm looking for the line which starts with from followed by a space, but there were no lines with respect to this kind of text format, right? With respect to this string. So it was actually from colon. Okay. So make sure that the line which starts with from colon, you have to be aware of like what kind of string you are trying to read. And now you could see I have generated the list of words here in the first iteration. I could see one line which is present. It will be printed at the first iteration and it will follow with through the couple of iterations. Again, I have found second line, right, which has started with from, and now if I say words of two, because always you see here the words of two means this is the second index of the list. I can type the day of the week. Okay, I can type the day of the week likewise in the given text file. Okay, see, before you try to extract anything or try to fetch some data from the text file or any type of string, you should have some prior knowledge about the strings, what it consists of, about what kind of text you have inside the text file or any file. Okay, so this was a small example, and in today's class we are going to study about object and values, which we had a small discussion in the previous class, and the dictionary. This is again another type of data structure which holds the elements in terms of a key value pairs, and we shall see some example programs, right, by considering some of the examples. Right, so let me delete that text file. Okay, so before I go to dictionary, we shall just try to look few concepts about objects and values. This is very important concept, guys. You have to be aware about object oriented programming, how it works, and what happens with respect to the values. Okay, suppose if I try to execute some assignment statements like a is equal to mangoes and b is equal to, it's a season of mangoes, so I'm just trying to go ahead with this fruit now. Okay, fine. So what are these statements? We know that a and b both refer to a string, correct? So this a and b both refers to a string. Guys, I'm audible?
Yes, sir.
Okay, fine, good. So a and b both refers to a string, but we don't know whether they refer to the same string, right? There are two possible states. Sometimes um, a refers to mangoes and b refers to, so I'll just write it as m, and b refers to m again, right? Instead of saying mangoes, I'm just trying to type m. Sometimes what happened, they do refer to the same string. Sometimes a and b refers to the same string. See here, a and b refers to the same string m here. So in this situation, what we need to do. In one case, A and B refer to two different objects. See here, A and B refers to two different objects. When I say, if I am trying to use a different fruit here, now A and B are two different values, correct? Two different values, so you'll get two different objects, correct? So to check whether the A and B are same, like if I say A and B with the same values, here I am given the same values like mangoes to A as well as to B, I have given the same value. So now I can check whether A and B are two different objects that have the same value, and in the second case they refer to the same object, or sometimes I have two objects with two different values, or I may have the same object with two different values. Okay, so to check whether two variables refer to the same object, you can use is operator. I repeat, I will use is operator just in order to check whether two variables refer to the same object, correct? So here in this case, these two variables refers to the same object. Why? Because you have the same value, so it refers to the same object. So only one object will be created with respect to this example. So I will say A is B. Is A B? I would get a Boolean result, like it is true. Why? Because you have the same values been assigned to two different variables, but still A and B refers to the same object. Understand? A and B refers to the same object. In this example, Python has created one string object and both A and B are referred to it. So in this case, I could say Python created one object. Guys, be careful. Python created one object and A and B referred to same object. Why? Because the values were same. Refer to same object. Now let me take another example with respect to list. If I have A is equal to 1, 2, 3, I have one list. A is equal to 1, 2, 3, and B is equal to, I have, let me take the same value. Now what is your answer? What happens if I say A is B? I want to check whether A and B are two different objects, or just like the above example in terms of strings, Python created one object, A and B were refers to same object because I had the same values. Can anybody say what is the answer here? A is B. Is it true or false? What's the answer? Hello? Am I audible? Guys, what is the answer? It may be wrong. Just try to respond. Few may say true, few may say false. Either of this will be correct. Hello?
True, sir.
True, sir.
True, sir.
True. So unfortunately, you get false. Why? Because in list, I repeat, in this case, we would say that these two lists are equivalent in terms of values because they have same elements. It is equivalent but not identical. When you say identical, when it is in terms of object, you say identical in terms of A is equal to mangoes, B is equal to mangoes, A is B. They were identical in terms of string. Why? Because you created same object and the values were assigned to the same object. One object and the values were assigned to same object. But here in this case, it is not identical because if two objects are identical, they are also equivalent. But if they are equivalent, they need not to be identical. I repeat, whenever you create a list, okay, whenever you create a list, it refers to two different objects. Why? Because why? That is a good question. Now here in this situation, this was not true. This was true, right? In this situation this was true, and this situation it was not true. Why? Because there might be some situation where the list elements are mutable, right? See here, I'm just trying to explain you why there is as one object, and here in this case I would write it as Python created two different objects and they are not identical. Though it is equivalent, they are not identical. Python created two objects and A and B refer to different objects. Correct? Why? So that is an interesting question. Why? Because I could say lists are mutable. Mutable. How about your strings? What do you say? Strings are? Yeah, come on guys. Strings are what? Hello? What is the property with respect to mutable and what is the other property? Strings are? Are you guys live? Hello?
Immutable, sir.
Okay. So how many times I have to ask you to get one small response? So strings are immutable. Be careful, when strings are immutable, there are no chances that you're going to change the string values once it is assigned. So that is why Python creates only one object here in this case with respect to strings, and with respect to same values. I mean to say same string. But here, since lists are mutable, Python will not take any chance of creating one object. It creates two different objects. Why? Because lists are mutable. Anytime, any moment, this can become like this. But here, you cannot edit. Once the values have been given to these variables in terms of strings, you cannot edit it, or you cannot replace the elements once it is assigned. Here, even though it is assigned, there sometimes what happens, I could change the elements, right? I could change the elements like this. A of 3 is equal to, sorry, A of 2 is equal to 4. So now this is executed. Why? Because now you say A, just print and see. A, see here, 1, 2, 4. The elements has been changed. Though I have the same length, but the element of the second index has been changed. That is why I cannot refer, though it has got an equivalent values, I cannot refer to the same object. It has to be created two different objects. So here A is B and I would get false. Guys, please understand this concept because this will be dealt in the next module in detail. At that time, you should know what you mean by object. Object is nothing but an instantiation, or you can call it as an instance. Okay, this can be interchangeably used. It's just an instance, correct? And now suppose if A refers to an object and you assign B is equal to A in this situation, if I still say B is equal to A, okay, B is equal to A, and then if I would like to see what whether if A and B are same object, now it will say what? What is the answer now? What is the answer?
True.
True, correct.
Sir.
Correct. Why? Because the association of a variable with an object that is equal to B is a reference. In this example, two references are given to the same object. An object with more than one reference, okay, has got more than one name. So we can call it as an aliasing. So this concept is called aliasing. So now we have created the same object, call it as aliasing. Get this concept, define or explain the concept of aliasing in terms of list and objects. Now, the aliased object is mutable. The changes made with one alias affect the others. See here, what is A? Just let me print this A. What is A? See, A is equal to 1 to 3. And what is B? B is equal to 1 to 3. Now I said B is equal to A. Now I said B is equal to A. Now, if I say B of 0, B of 0 is equal to 17. That means I am just trying to replace this element with 17. And say B, print B. Now you could see B was 1, 2, 3. Now the new element, that is 1, got replaced by 17. Now this is 17, 2, 3. But what happens with A? What happens with A? This B fine. Guys, what happens with A? A, I had 1, 2, 3. Can anybody tell what happens with A? The list of A, the elements of A. First, since these A and B are aliased, whatever changes that you are going to make in any of these elements will be reflected in the other object also, because both are referring to the same object, right? Both are referring to the same object. Changes made in any of these variable will be reflected in either. Like if you say B, if you say A, it will be reflected in both the variables. This behavior can be useful sometimes, right? It is error prone, so it depends upon the application. Okay, for immutable objects like string, aliasing is not as much of a problem. So it almost never makes a difference whether A and B refers to the same string or not. It doesn't matter in terms of string. Okay, so I repeat, what do you mean by aliasing? If I have declared a list of elements like something like this, okay, and B with same elements, okay, and now if I say B is equal to A, okay, B is equal to A, and say A is B, it will say true. Okay, now if I try to do any changes with respect to any of these elements, say if I say B of 2 is equal to 100, you could see that would be reflected in A. That would be reflected in the list A. Why? Because B and A are aliased. But in terms of string, since strings are immutable, there is no aliasing is not as much as of a problem in the strings cases. Any doubt? Any doubt, guys? Fast. Okay. So now list arguments. So far you have seen operations on the list, the methods on the list, or the different types of delete options, remove options, and the other options on the list. Now we shall see list as arguments. When you pass a list to a function, suppose if I create a function can be created using a keyword called def. Now I try to create a function called delete head. What do you mean by delete head? If I want to remove the first element from a given list. Okay, before I create this function, just let me just type a list is equal to, say I have some elements like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. How to remove, guys, how to remove the first element from a list? Can anybody say how to remove the first element of this list? Can I use del operator T of 0, and then say T. Now you could see this example, I have removed the first element of this list T. I have used delete operator, correct? So likewise, if I create a function which removes what? Which removes the first element of a list. So I can create df delete of first or delete head. And then I say I'll pass P as an argument. And then now I say del T of 0. Right? del T of 0. So what is this function? This function removes the first element from a list. This removes the first element from the list. So now I can use this function. How to use this function? Let me say another example. Letters is equal to, I have a list of letters A, B, C, and D. A, B, C, and D. Okay. Now, how to call this function, guys? How to call this function? If I want to use this function to remove the letter A, I will simply call the function by delete underscore head by its name. And functions, be careful, functions are always represented with an input argument in the common brackets. Delete underscore head, I'm referring to this function, and I'm passing letters. See here, letters. What is letters here? Letters is a list. Letters is a list. And what is letters here with respect to function? It is an argument. So here list is used as an argument, precisely as an input argument to the function, right? List is used as an input argument to the function. I can give list as an input argument to this function, and you could see, and I should print print letters and see what happens. The letters, you could see like the first element from this list has been removed, correct? So here the parameter T, understand guys, the parameter T and the variable letters parameter T and the variable letters are aliases for the same object, Note, what did you observe from the above program? The parameter T in the function here, the parameter T in the function, parameter T and letters, variable, right? And variable letters So these are called aliases. That means it refers to the same object. That's it. There is no other meaning. It refers to the same objects. Now again, if it is also important to distinguish between operations that modify the list and operation that creates new list. Guys, be very careful. Operation that modifies the list and operation that creates the list. You should have some difference here. Suppose if I say T1 is equal to a list of numbers 1, 2, 3, 4, and now if I say T2 is equal to T1 dot append, T1 dot append, okay, T1 dot append is a function. Now I say 5, I'm trying to add the fifth element to this list. So what happens if I say print T? Guys, what happens if I say print T1? I need some answers here. What happens if I say print T1?
Phi gets added.
Yeah. So the element 5 will get appended to this T1. What happens if I say print T2? Let me just put it in another cell. What happens if I say print T2? Guys, fast. Hello. Fast, fast, fast.
Only phi get.
No. So it is none. That means T2, there is no element called T2 at all. There is no variable called T2. T2 is equal to simply none. T1 dot append. This dot append is directly modifying the list of T1. That means it is appending the element because you have used dot append. It simply appends the value here in T1. But it doesn't store any value because you are just trying to modify this list T1. T2 is none. Be careful, guys. T2 is none. So it is very important to distinguish between operations that modify the list and operations that create new list. T2 is none. Suppose T3 is equal to, suppose I say T3 is equal to T1 plus T1 plus 3. What happens, guys, if I say T2 is equal to T1 plus 3? What happens in this situation if I say print T3? Hello? So it will take T1. The new T1 is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and it will add the element to T1 and it will be assigned to T3. See here, the new T1 is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. It will add the element 3 to T1 and it will be creating a new list called T3. So I printed T3. The T3 is a new list now. Here I am trying to create a new list. Here I try to modify T1. But though you modified T1 and saved to T2, T2 is none in this case. And I've created a new list T3. Correct? Now shall I refer whether T2 and T3 are same? Sorry, T3 and T1 are same? What is the answer? Sorry, T2 is T3. T2 and T3 are same because see here you have T2 where you have modified the list T1 dot append and T3 which is a modified list, a concatenation of T1 with the element 3. Can I say T2 is T3? What is the answer? It is false. Verify with T1 is T3. Again, it is false. Verify with T1 is T2. And it is false because in all the combinations T1 and T2 are two different objects, right? So it creates different objects. It's just like creating different memory locations, different instances. Suppose if I want to write a function that creates and returns a new list which deletes the last element, the tail element. How to write? The last element is deleted. Just give a try. Okay. Just give a try later. And I'd like to give a small assignment here. Write a function Just take a screenshot of this. Just take a screenshot of 1 second. One second. Now you can take the screenshot of this. Write a function called chop that takes a list. Understand? Chop that takes function called chop that takes a list and modifies it. In what way? Removing the first and last elements and returns none. See here, in this case, it returns none. Guys, in this case, it returns none. So it has to return none, but it has to modify the list which has been taken as an input argument. Then write a function called middle that takes a list and returns a new list that contains all but the first and last elements. All but the first and last elements. So it has to remove the first and last elements. Here see, remove the first and last element and it should return a none. So if I call a function called chop, it should simply return none. If I call a function called middle, it should return what? It should return a new list which should not contain first and last elements. Very simple. You have to write two functions. There will be two functions. One in the name of chop, which takes the input element as list, which removes first and last elements. I am just trying to write an algorithm here, right? It's a common way of removes first and last elements, but returns what it should return. It should return none. Right? It should return none. Then you write a function called middle. Sorry, you should write a function called middle, right? Middle that takes a list again. And returns a new list that returns a new list that contains all elements but the first and last elements. Okay. And now if I call your function like this, if I call your function chop by giving some input values, it should give me the answer none. Now if I call a middle, so it should give me the list where there will be no first and last elements. Okay, there will be no first and last elements. And there should be interlink between this chop and middle functions. The list here, if I say the list, if I just try to see what is list here, in this situation, what is list here? It should be the list which has no first and last element in this situation. If I call here also, I should get the same result. But the function, if I say chop, it should give me none. It should immediately return none. But what should happen to the list? List should not contain first and last elements. List should not contain first and last element. If I execute only this function immediately after this function, or if I execute full program, I should get these results. Okay. Just let me know if you have not understood what you need to do. There's just an algorithm which I've written. The way you understand, and just try to put the right statements in such a way that if you try to execute a function called chop. It should return none, but the list should be modified. But the list which I have entered here should be modified, which should not contain first and last element. You can print the list and see here. And also, you can use this list here, define middle underscore list, again write a function which should not contain first and last element. And if I say middle, I should get a list which should be a list without first and last element. And if I execute all the program, both the program, I should get, if I call a function called chop, I should get none. If I say function got middle, I should get a list without first and last elements. Very simple. Okay. Yeah. So after this, again, just go with the debugging part in the textbook. It's a very simple debugging. You just make some error and you'll get to know like why that error is generated, and can just try to guys. And one more thing, what happens, suppose if I try to read a text file, just let me put this in a markdown section, and okay, I'll go to the code. Guys, a simple question, just let me know what is the answer from you people. If I try to read, okay, let me go to the first program, beginning program here. Okay, here. Okay. Okay. What happens to this program? If I execute this program, what happens? Hello. What happens if I execute this program? Am I audible, guys? Priyanka?
Yes, sir.
What happened to you people?
Nothing, sir.
Then why are you so silent? Why are you guys so silent?
Sir, ಬೆಳಗ್ಗೆ ಅಲ್ವಾ ಅದಕ್ಕೆ
ನನಗೇನು ರಾತ್ರಿ ಆಗಿದೆಯಾ ಈಗ?
ಇಲ್ಲ sir.
Okay, see, it is just a simple question here. What happens if I run this program? There is a result. I am trying to display the day of the week in a string which starts with from, and I could find the string. What happens if I say words of 6? Can you see words of 6? Hello? Words of 6. In one attempt, in some iteration, I got this 2008. Why? Because I had this string. What happens if I did not have any character at the 6th index? Suppose in some string, suppose a string is like this, and where I don't have any character after the 5th index. So that is why I'm getting this error. Can you see this error? Guys, can you see this error?
Yes, sir.
So list index out of range. That means there is no character here. Though you had from, though you had a line which begin with from, but I did not had a character or a string at this particular position. I did not had a character here. It was an empty. So in this situation, you had generated an error saying that list index out of range. Correct? List index out of range. So in some situations like this, where there might be an error which encounters when you have a blank line. Suppose if you have a blank line and you might generate an error saying that boss, there is no further line. Okay, and you will get an error saying that index is out of range. So in such situation, what you do, you use a guardian code. You need to add some guardian code which protects this code. Otherwise, you'll get an error immediately. So we will choose to check the number of words. Correct? We will just check the number of words. Let me copy down the same program. Okay, in this situation here. Okay, I copied on the same program. And if I run this program, fine, but I've generated an error here. Correct? I've generated an error here because there was no words of 6. There was no words of 6. Okay, so what I need to do, I can just try to put another guardian statement here. Okay, here where if not line dot starts from, and also I would say length of words, if length of words is not equal to 6 or is not is greater than, what should I type here, what condition I should give, if length of words less than 6, shall I say less than 6, guys? Hello, I'm just putting a guardian word here just in order to come out of this error. I don't want to see this error. So if I say if length of words less than 6, if length of words less than 6, I should say less than 5. Yeah, okay, again I'm getting this error. What should I say here? Length of words less than 5 or length of words less than 5, I should get, okay, length of words less than 6. Or let me just check print words and see what is happening. Just comment this statement and see what is happening with your text statement. Okay, yeah, here I had 0, 1, 2, 3, 4. So only I can use these guardian statements only if I have 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 and 6. So here I will get an error words of 5. And what happens if with words of 6, it would be 2008. I would print both and see print words. I'm just trying to use this guardian statement on this text file effectively. So here in the first iteration, I have this string which has got, sorry, list which has got all the six elements is there, 5. Fifth element 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 and 6. So the length was satisfying and I have just printed this 2008. But here words of 6 was not there. So how should I exclude this error? How should I just get rid of this error? Can anybody help me out in this situation? How would I get rid of that error? Here I had only 0, 1, 2, 3, 4. 0, 1, 2, 3, 4. Is any solution? Hello? Any solution? Oh, I think all of you are out of your mind today. Okay. Pranesh?
Yes, sir.
What happened, guys? Why are you so dull today? No response. Out of the track? Did you get sixth semester results today?
No, sir.
Then what happened? I need some response. I am stuck in. I have a problem here. I am stuck in at some point. Rakshit, Truti.
Yes, sir.
What happened? Why no replies? Did you get my question? Guys, did you get my question? Did you get my problem? What I was trying to sort this out. This is called a guardian code. Guardian code, piece of code which protects me from these kind of unseen errors. I just want to get rid of this error. What should I use? What should I do? What logic should I use here? You want time to think?
Continue should win next line.
Huh? Okay, I'll give this as an homework. Just try. I just want you guys to include a line here. When sometimes what happens here, there are some lines in the text which starts with from, correct? If not, line starts with from, continue. So I am looking for the line which starts with from, and it would create a words like this. Okay, it would create a words. But what happens if I am trying to print a word, trying to print an element which is not present inside that list? That was my question. Here I created a list, but I did not had this index 6, but it was started with from. That is the problem here. So I should include a guardian code which protects both. I should print words of 6 in situations like the line which starts with from and you had its 6th index. And also it should eliminate, okay, it should eliminate this error because it did not had the 6th element in the list, but it was started with from. This is little tricky, right? You call it as a guardian code. Just let me know the answer in the next class. I'll give you some time. I just want to get rid of this error. So what is that you're going to add here? I'll give 100 rupees as a prize. Those who gives the first answer. Just send me a Google Pay number. I'll just deposit 100 rupees prize, cash prize to your account. Okay. Only one. Those who gives the first answer, first come first serve at the earliest. If I find the earliest answer, you get the prize. Shall I wait for another 3 minutes here on the screen so that you can post the answer? I'll wait for 2 or 3 minutes. Okay. So thank you guys. Thank you for this session. Take care. Stay safe. Stay home. I'll wait for the answer till 10:30. Okay. Bye guys.